We have some beautiful skies, y'all. We have a lot of inspiration we can draw on as watercolor artists, but it can be intimidating to look at a sky in all of its intricacies and know how to even start painting it. But the good news is, you do not need a complex, intricate sky in order to have a dramatic sky in your watercolor painting. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah. Now, when painting skies in watercolor, it can be as simple as a single brush stroke and as intricate as a multi-layered process to get a lot of different layers of clouds in there. And in this video, I want to show you 4 different relatively simple skies that you can try out as you are learning watercolor. These skies use techniques such as a 2-color gradient, working wet and wet, lifting, and using blooms. All of these techniques are ones that I use in my watercolor skies all the time. So grab a piece of paper, divide it into 4 quadrants, and let's get painting. So for sky number 1, we're going to be doing wet and wet. Actually, we're going to be doing wet and wet for all of these. So I'm going to be using ultramarine blue and then a little bit of this mauvey pinky purple to create a little twilight dusk sunset. I'm using my big mop brush because it lays the paint down really nicely. A smaller brush, you have to do more backwards and forwards motions, and it just gets a little bit more finicky. So I started at the top with the blue and then going from the bottom up in these horizontal strokes with that pinky mauve color. And then I take that all the way up to the top. And then when I get to the top, I go all the way back down to have one smooth gradation of colors, and it makes it a little bit muted. This is supposed to be a super chill sky. And then I'm going in with my smaller number 8 round and using that mauvey pink to do some sideways clouds for the sunset. And then I'll use the blue mixed with a little bit of this pink up in the top quarter of the painting to do these purple clouds, and then we'll see how it looks. I'm keeping the shapes of the clouds pretty much uniform. They're these horizontal, kind of sweet little sunset clouds. And it's kind of purple up top, and then I'm adding in a little bit of the pink too. And in this middle section, I'll put a little bit of that bluey purple on the tops of these pink clouds so that it's like they're being illuminated from below with the sunset. Okay, we let that dry and move on to square number 2. I'm actually going to be getting water on squares 2 and 3 and letting that soak in on the third one while I paint the second one. We're using ultramarine blue again, and for this one, I want big fluffy clouds. So I'm going to be using a lifting technique to show you the second sky. Again, I'm using my mop brush to do these backwards and forwards strokes of blue, and then I will be lifting the clouds. I'm doing a couple of passes with this ultramarine blue to get it as dark as I want, because I really want those clouds to pop with this one. Okay, now I'm taking my toilet paper that's kind of bunched up and I'm lifting the paint off while it's still wet to create these big fluffy clouds. I really want it to feel like I'm in an airplane in these clouds, kind of at eye level. I'm lifting some of these smaller ones up top, and this is a pretty quick one. And then I'm taking some of that pink color and doing a super light wash on parts of these clouds just to give some variation of color and shadow. For this third one, I'm using my ultramarine blue again to do kind of a scribble technique to have these wispy cirrus clouds. I want this guy to feel vast. And I'll show you some ways at the end of how to finish off this painting to give that perspective. But I'm using this round brush and doing this little script motion, these squiggles back and forth, so that the white left behind looks like these kind of wispy cirrus clouds, and the blue obviously is the blue sky around them. I'm going to lay down these little wisps of a cloud and then do a little bit of lifting for areas where I want there to be more clouds. I'm not using any reference photos for these paintings. I'm just painting with my heart. So it is possible that this sky is not scientifically or meteorologically accurate with cloud formations and stuff, but that doesn't really matter. I want to see what kind of shapes I can achieve when there's no hard lines and hard edges, and I'm just using wet paint on wet paper and letting things meld and move a little bit, and having that kind of optical illusion where the sky suddenly shoots into the background and the white that I've left behind is now the objects of the clouds. And I want a little bit more cloud here, so I'm using my round brush to lift. I'll switch over to my mop brush, which does a much better job. This is a little too small for what I'm trying to lift right now. I switched over to that mop brush, and that's a thirsty brush, so it's kind of a little bit damp but able to pick up that wet paint. And we're going to let that one dry. All right, for our last one, I want this to be a little bit different. This is going to be a night sky. So I'm using this dark indigo mixed with some Prussian blue. And this is a really fun technique to try out when you're new to watercolor. It ends up looking more detailed and more complicated than it really is, but it's a super fun one. So I'm putting some Prussian blue directly on top to get a dark sky before I add in my Milky Way. That's going down really nice. It's kind of darker on top and lighter at the bottom. I'm going to be adding in more liquid here, so I'm kind of getting any paint off on top of the tape because I don't want it to back run into the painting and create unintentional blooms. I'm going to let that soak in a little bit before I'm ready to move on to the next step. So I'm adding in a little bit of that pink to these clouds. I don't know if they're cirrus clouds. That's my best guess. Just a little bit to add some variation and shadow. Okay, now for the fun part. We're adding in a Milky Way. We're using blooms. So I'm taking water from my brush, laying it down in this kind of squiggly tree shape. This is supposed to be the Milky Way galaxy. If you're looking at the night sky with no, lights around from cities, and you see that Milky Way. And with blooms, we're letting that water push away some of that pigment and create this kind of flowy effect. I haven't done this technique in years, but I used to do it all the time, and it's super fun to experiment with water control and to play around with different ways to finish off a night landscape. Okay, those are all dry. These 4 studies are meant to show some different ways to paint skies and have the skies be the star of the show, but I do want to show you how you might finish off paintings simply in order to keep the focus remaining on the sky. So with this bottom one, I'm putting in lines and rectangles to show this really low town. Is that a church? Is it a little building? It's on a hill. I'm keeping it super low so that the sky continues to look massive and vast. I don't know why, but I feel like this town looks like it's in France. So I'm just deciding this is a little French town to finish off this painting. I'm not trying to be super detailed. It's just a silhouette, and it took, a couple minutes. Now, another way you might finish off a painting simply is to add a couple of trees. So with this nighttime one, I'm adding indigo, adding trees here and there. I'm keeping the heights different. I'm keeping the thickness and direction of the trees different, just so that there's some nice variation here. When in doubt, stick a tree on it, and it makes the landscape look great. A good activity to do when you're getting into your watercolor journey is to just pay attention to the natural world. When you are driving around or you're going grocery shopping, pay attention to the sky. What do the clouds look like? What does the sky look like? I don't know why grocery store parking lots tend to have the most spectacular skies, but whenever I go to Costco, I come out and the parking lot is like the most magical sunset I've ever seen in my life, and it's like shopping carts around me. But look at the sky at Costco and think, what color would I use for these clouds? Where would I start in painting the sky? And that helps you start to analyze not just reference photos, but even just plain air, just analyzing your world around you. Finishing this off by adding some white gouache stars. So I have white gouache on my brush, and then I'm tapping it with another brush, and I'm kind of changing up the angle of my splatter so it's not just in lines. And we have a starry night sky. I've decided this is in Norway. I've never been to Norway, but it feels like Norway to me, so there you go. And there we go. 4 different ways to paint skies. These were really fun. These look beautiful just on their own or with these little finalizing details at the bottom. Let's get the tape off and see how they turned out. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and that you try out these techniques in your own watercolor paintings. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.